My partner's dad insisted, "Agree to this agreement for her education debt or the marriage is canceled." I replied, "I get it." Then I retrieved the engagement band and purchased a property in its place. 3 months on, the debt agencies were contacting him since he was the guarantor. I, a 29-year-old guy, was set to wed Jenna, 27, back in June. We dated for 4 years, promised for 1. Things appeared ideal until her father made his bold demand during what was meant to be a relaxed meal 3 months prior to the ceremony. Gordon, her dad, always struck me as odd. A property agent, he drove a rented BMW beyond his means, endlessly discussed creating lasting family riches while lagging on his home payments. But Jenna idolized him, so I stayed silent. That Tuesday evening, once we'd eaten, Gordon produced this file, an actual beige envelope with printed pages, pushed it over the table as if we were sealing a business deal. "Before you become part of this household for real, we must address Jenna's schooling outlay." I glanced at Jenna. She was fixated on her dish. The outlay amounted to $127,000 in educational borrowing. For her advanced degree in imaginative literature from an elite college, the one Gordon pushed for because status outweighs cost. "I require you to endorse as joint debtor on the restructuring," he stated. "Improved terms with combined earnings." I scanned the documents. The borrowing conditions were outrageous. Adjustable interest beginning at 8.9%, 2-decade duration. "Gordon, this would hold me equally accountable for backing your spouse's aspirations, indeed." He reclined with this arrogant expression. "Unless you doubt her capabilities." Jenna eventually chimed in. "Dad, we agreed this would be optional." "Darling, a genuine guy doesn't allow his lady to battle obligations solo." I placed the documents aside. "I require a period to examine this with a money expert." Gordon's complexion flushed. "Money expert? This concerns faith. You either dedicate to this clan entirely, or he left it unspoken. Or what? Or perhaps you're unprepared for matrimony. Can't proceed with the event if you're not devoted to the family load. Asset." I gazed at Jenna. She was weeping quietly. "I get it," I remarked. Arrived home that evening and remained awake. Jenna continued expressing regret, claiming she hadn't anticipated her dad's action, that she'd conversed with him, but it seemed suspicious. She was distressed, sure, but not astonished, not furious with him. The following day I investigated, discovered via a shared acquaintance employed at the school that Jenna had completed studies with roughly $63,000 in debts. The remainder? Gordon had secured Guardian Plus borrowings and used them on personal costs. His BMW rental, a trip to Cabo, fresh golf gear. Now he aimed to merge it all and assign me liability for his expenditures. I challenged Jenna that night. She collapsed utterly. "I didn't know how to inform you." He claimed he was assisting with daily costs, but I learned afterward he was applying it to himself. He vowed to repay it, but his property transactions collapsed and, "You were aware. All along you were aware." I planned to reveal it post-ceremony. "Promise." "Post. After I was lawfully tied to you." She couldn't refute it. I reclaimed the band that evening. Not theatrically, just requested it as she wept on the sofa. She surrendered it without dispute. First follow-up. The consequences were fierce. Gordon phoned me 43 times on day 1. Left messages varying from, "Let's converse like adults," to "You're ruining my child," to "I'll pursue you for sentimental harm. My top pick was, "That band was a pledge, you can't simply reclaim it." In fact, I could. I verified. Provisional gift regulations in my area are explicit. Jenna relocated to her folks' place. Began sharing ambiguous sayings on Instagram regarding recognizing your value, and true guys rise to the occasion. Her mother, Diane, added remarks on each with prayer emojis. But here's the intriguing part. Recall I noted accumulating for the event? We planned $35,000. I gathered $26,000 of it. Jenna was meant to add the balance, but always faced sudden outflows. That cash remained in my bank, intact. Gordon was informed about it. He'd remarked on my prudent saving habits. 5 days post-split, he dialed from another line. I picked up. "Hear me, I might have been severe. Let's negotiate. You assume half the debts, we continue the event. I'll reduce $5,000 from our event input. Your input was merely $9,000 initially. Precisely. So now it's $4,000. That's fair." I chuckled. Genuinely chuckled. "Gordon, no event exists. You fail to grasp your actions." Jenna's shattered. Her stress meds expenses by themselves. No longer my concern. What of the advance payments? The location? The food service? I'm managing it, he hesitated. You'll forfeit thousands by abandoning those advances. In truth, I'm not. See, I'd been clever in one aspect. All event agreements were solely in my name. Jenna had demanded it since organizing overwhelms me. You're far superior at this. I contacted the location already. It emerged another pair was on standby for our slot. The location consented to shift it all if I permitted a minor shift charge. Forfeited perhaps $800 overall rather than $8,000. The food? My college pal had recently launched his eatery venture and was providing it at base price as our event present. He felt eased when I canceled. It transpired he'd been anxious over the eating limits Jenna kept appending. The picture taker was my relative. The Blooms via a kin associate. I forfeited maybe $2,000 in advances total. Retained $24,000. Know what I did? Applied it as initial payment on a residence. A modest 2-room renovator. In a solid area. Finalized in 30 days due to the cash initial. Second follow-up. Gordon's becoming frantic. Learned via common pals that he'd been informing all I monetarily mistreated Jenna by pilfering the event funds. Even contacted my folks to claim they nurtured a swindler. My mother's reply was epic. At minimum, my boy knows not to expend borrowing cash on a BMW rental. How was she aware of that? Since I sent her the proofs I'd uncovered. Gordon's Facebook was fully public. Uploading images from Cabo with dates aligning to the borrowing releases. Fool even labeled the hotel. But the true humor began when Jenna started seeing others. 2 weeks post-separation, she was on romance platforms. Her bio stated seeking a grown man who grasps monetary alliance in bonds. She connected with Trevor, finance specialist, drove a Tesla, appeared flawless. They courted for 3 weeks before he searched her online and discovered her dad's open Facebook tirades about me refusing her obligations. Trevor inquired on their 4th outing. Per my pal who observed this at an eatery, Jenna attempted to clarify it as my former was monetarily domineering. Trevor, evidently no fool, queried, so your dad desired him to guarantee your education debts? Well, yes, but how much? That's not. How much? $127,000. Trevor pardoned himself for the restroom and vanished. Left her with a $200 meal tab. Gordon rang me the following day yelling that I tarnished Jenna's image. How? By declining to endorse debt forms. By portraying us as fortune hunters. If it matches. He disconnected. Meanwhile, I'm renovating my property. Devoted weekends removing aged flooring, coating surfaces, modernizing fittings. Shared some advancement shots on Instagram. Nothing exaggerated, just fresh venture owner. Jenna viewed them. Dispatched a lengthy message about how I was flaunting it and, I always desired a residence. Yes, I knew. She desired a residence without payment. 3rd follow-up. Recall those debts Gordon sought me to guarantee? Amusing fact about Guardian Plus debts. They're under the Guardian's title, not the learner's. And Gordon, in his boundless smarts, had been submitting bare minimum installments for years as the charges grew. Well, 3 months post our separation, something wonderful occurred. See, when I declined the restructuring forms, Gordon needed another fix. His initial scheme was to unify all into a commercial debt with superior conditions using my rating and salary. Sans me, he was trapped. The debts entered delinquency. The initial contact arrived during my job hours. Gordon frantic in tone. They're deducting my earnings. They can't. Who is? The debt handler. They're seizing 15% of my fees. I remained silent. This is on you if you merely endorsed. Gordon, those are your debts. Guardian Plus debts. Your title. Your duty. But they benefited Jenna. No, $63,000 benefited Jenna. The balance was for your BMW and trips. Quiet. How did you? Irrelevant. What counts is you attempted to trick me into covering your later life turmoil. How's that progressing? He began menacing lawsuits again. I ended the call, but it improves. Diane, Jenna's mother, unaware of the debt delinquency until they attempted to restructure their residence to aid. It emerged Gordon had concealed numerous money woes. The delinquency wrecked his rating. No restructuring feasible. Diane rang me sobbing, imploring me to rethink. He aired. Please, you cared for Jenna before. I did. Then I discovered she was involved in deceit. It's not deceit. It's kin aiding kin. It's actually deceit. Applying schooling debts for individual outflows? That's deceit. She disconnected on me. Then arrived the property certification problem. It turns out earning deductions don't appear favorable to the property council. Gordon's employer learned of his money status, began doubting if he could handle client trust funds. He wasn't dismissed, but placed on trial period, meaning another had to monitor his deals. His fee division shifted from 70 to 30 to 50 to 50 for the added oversight. Fourth follow-up. Jenna contacted last week. Altered vibe completely. Can we converse? Face to face? Despite my instincts, I consented. Convened at a cafe. She appeared worn. Tension slimming. Shadows beneath eyes. Fingernails chewed short. I'm regretful, she commenced. I ought to have disclosed the debts. About Dad misusing the funds. I paused. He's unraveling. Mom discovered he secured an additional home loan last year, sans informing her. Used her endorsement. She's seeking separation. That's regrettable. I must inquire something. She extracted documents. Would you consent to draft a declaration? For Mom's attorney? About Dad attempting to compel you on the debts? I examined the documents. Your mom wants my aid in separating from your dad? She requires evidence of money trickery. Your case demonstrates a trend. The paradox was astonishing. Jenna, you participated in that trickery. I know I did. But I didn't consider I'd uncover until post-matrimony. She began weeping. Cared for you. I still do. Dad always claimed this was family operation. That you divide loads. No, Jenna. He instructed you to transfer loads to others. I accepted the documents. I'll ponder it. Returned home and truly pondered. They desired my assistance in resolving their chaos. But here's the point. I did compose the declaration. Not for Jenna or Diane, but since Gordon required repercussions. Outlined all. The tried pressure. The warnings about halting the event. The disclosure on abused debt funds. Diane's attorney was highly curious about the Cabo trip financed by schooling debts. Fifth follow-up. Gordon's existence has fully collapsed. The separation hearings uncovered further money offenses. He'd activated charge cards in Diane's title. Secured a vehicle debt for a vessel he offloaded 2 months after. The Guardian Plus debts were merely the surface. But the genuine retribution arrived from a surprise origin. The tax authority. See, when you apply student debt cash for non-schooling outflows, that's not merely deceit. It's possibly taxable earnings unreported. Diane's attorney, being meticulous, notified the entire case to the tax body. Gordon rang me intoxicated at 2 a.m. last Tuesday. You wrecked my existence. No, Gordon. You wrecked your existence. I just opted out. My child won't communicate with me. Can you fault her? She must relocate with Diane. Can't cover her flat now. Perhaps she should secure employment utilizing that imaginative literature credential. He launched into a tirade on regard and kin and how his era grasped dedication. I switched to speaker and prepared a snack. Eventually, he exhausted himself. You might have possessed all. A lovely spouse. A household. Links in property. Gordon, I do possess all. I have a residence that's mine. Employment sans deducted pay. A rating in the 800s. Folks not separating. What precisely did I forego? He disconnected. Jenna messaged me next day. Dad's relocating with grandmother. Forfeited the residence in the separation. I didn't reply. She sent more. I secured work at Barnes & Noble. Positive for her. Another. I'm regretful for all. You didn't merit any. That one I answered. You're correct. I didn't. Last follow-up. Finalized selling my property yesterday. Earned $38,000 gain after mere 6 months of repairs and value rise. Already committed to a superior spot in a finer area. Gordon's residing with his mom. Laboring part-time at another property company. His pay still deducted. The tax body imposed $34,000 in overdue levies and fines. He's 58 and essentially restarting. Diane obtained the residence and separation, but needed to offload it to settle the hidden obligations Gordon built. She's leasing a single-room unit now, laboring as a front desk worker. Jenna's still at Barnes & Noble seeing a fellow named Keith, who evidently also carries huge education debts. Suppose she discovered her monetary alliance. My relative, who was to capture our event images, photographed a betrothal last week. The man paying mentioned he'd learned of that debt scenario via shared contacts. Said it prompted him and his betrothed to discuss money openness pre-matrimony seriously. They visited a money advisor jointly. You likely spared that pair years of issues, my relative informed me. Possibly. Last week, received a LinkedIn alert. Gordon checked my page. That's all. Just checked it. I refreshed it next day with my fresh advancement to lead task director. Trivial? Perhaps. Gratifying? Definitely. Oh, and recall that band? Sold for $8,700. Applied to the new resident's initial. The gem dealer inquired if a tail existed. I said yes, evaded a $127,000 trap. He chuckled and suggested buying a lotto slip with such fortune. Told him fortune was irrelevant. At times the top outlay is departing a poor arrangement. Even if that arrangement arrives in a pale gown and labels itself affection. To those encountering a kin force, no suffices fully. Your money prospects aren't a bride price. And whoever attempts to exploit your affection for their benefit doesn't cherish you. They cherish your utility. Also, always document all. Even wild requests. Particularly wild requests. Gordon, if you're viewing this, and I know you are since Jenna mentioned you've been spite monitoring my profiles, your BMW was seized last month. I spotted it on the bid site. Sold for $11,000 below market. Suppose that lasting riches isn't producing much, huh? Fine.